And we're live for episode 11 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. Welcome back. I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you had tons of great food, great times with your family, tons of great football games on that day. I'm back, Jared, with Chris and Ian again. Episode 11. Cannot believe we're already 11 episodes in. Tons of great topics again to talk to you guys about. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully you guys are ready. How are you guys doing this week?
Good to go,
Chris?
man.
Ian, how you doing?
Living the dream.
Awesome. All right, so usually we start off the show with our best and worst of the past weekend. I'm going to start off with some really great news, probably the best news you'll hear this week. Former Bengals defensive tackle Devin Still's daughter, Leah, who was battling cancer, had a scan today. It came back NED, which stands for no evidence of disease. Fantastic news. That girl is the cutest thing. I always hate seeing little kids have to go through your cancer and things like that. It's absolutely awful. So fantastic news. Glad to hear that. You know, it was a great story, great thing the Bengals did, and just absolutely fantastic news. But best and worst of the past weekend, besides the Leah Still news, Chris, what was your best and worst of the past weekend, sir?
Well, we can keep with the Bengals theme here. I liked what I saw from Cincinnati against the Rams. I think after 2 tough weeks, 2 tough losses, my best personally is Andy Dalton. He goes 20 for 27, goes over 230 yards. The beat just keeps rolling for this guy. He had a classic Dalton performance, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. I'll take those numbers all day. Worst of the weekend, how about the Georgia Bulldogs from the NCAA firing a guy after a 9-3 season, Coach Marc? Not only that, he's the leading coach in Georgia history for winning percentage. The same kind of situation happened last year with Nebraska, getting rid of Bo Pelini after a 9-3 season. I think these schools are a little out of their mind. I think they have expectations that are way too high and unrealistic, but that's the way it goes. Best and worst, so that's me.
Ian?
For my best, I'm going to go to the NBA. A legend calling it quits this week. Kobe Bryant came out in the Players Tribune and submitted a poem for his fans and for the league. The media's ragged on this guy for a while the last few seasons. I'm glad to see him call it quits on his own terms. He said in his poem, he goes, "My heart can take the pounding, my mind can handle the grind, but my body knows it's time to say goodbye." I think he's doing this for the Lakers. It's going to put the asses in the seats. It's just like Mariano Rivera's farewell tour with the Yankees. It's going to do a lot for every team they play on the road, at home. And he's also the only NBA player to play 20 seasons for a team, I think I heard, for one team. So it's pretty cool. Another part of our childhood calling it quits. My worst of the week, last week I did a umbrella around officiating. This week I'm going to do another blanket statement on fans in general. I'm going to start with Sunday night's game, Patriots and Broncos. Just the fans on social media. After Rob Gronkowski goes down with an injury for the Pats, I tweeted about it. If you've got a horse in the AFC division or AFC playoff race, you shouldn't be rooting for somebody to go down for an injury. I mean, if you're rooting for someone to get hurt, you're doing this whole fandom thing wrong. It's just you're a crappy person if you're rooting for someone to get hurt. I'm sorry. And then last night in the Monday night game, Browns fans chanting Johnny after Josh McCown goes down with the collarbone injury, and Austin Davis comes in and silences that crowd real quick. But root for your team. Don't root for other people to get hurt. Be proud of your team. Don't be trying to start stuff in the stands. But that's my best and worst of the week.
Nice. My best of the week was my Columbus Crew clinching the Eastern Conference Finals over the New York Red Bulls in New York in dramatic fashion, too. Last-second shot bounced off the post for New York that would have sent the game to overtime, but fortunately it bounced out, and the Columbus Crew will be going to the MLS Cup Finals, and they will be hosting the MLS Cup Finals because they are the top remaining seed. I will be attending the game. I am super excited. I cannot wait. It's the first time the Crew have ever hosted the game. It's going to be electric. Hopefully the Crew can come out with a win. So that was my best of the week. My worst of the week, besides the tension on my belt from all the food that I ate at Thanksgiving, was The last play of the Browns-Ravens game, I am not a fan of either teams, but my gosh, what have the Browns done? What curse? What has happened to this team? Well, who have you guys wronged to have all these bad things happen? That's just an awful, awful way to lose. I would be sick after that game if it were the Bengals in that position. Absolutely terrible. So that's our best and worst of the weekend. Thank you guys. Do appreciate it. Now, let's move on and talk about the Reds a little bit. Now, there was some news. It's a couple weird things that happened with the Reds. First, we have a question that coincides with this from Miss Lynn's Light. Lynn's wants to know, for those of you who don't know, Brayan Pena actually accepted an offer from the Cardinals. So Brayan Pena has left the Reds and he will now be a Cardinal. Miss Lynn's wants to know, what do you guys think of the Brayan Pena move to the Cardinals? Also, for those of you who don't know, Marc Anthony, the pop star, has opened his own sports agency firm, and his first client that he signed is Aroldis Chapman, closer for the Reds. Lynn's also wants to know, what about the hilarious news that Marc Anthony is in sports agency business, and his first signing was Aroldis Chapman? What do you guys think about that? Chris?
Yeah, I got to admit, that one threw me a little bit for a curve. The Brayan Pena news, nothing really too groundbreaking. I know the fans love Brayan Pena. He's a good option for a backup catcher and a backup first baseman. He's a likable guy. He's a clubhouse guy. But he's gone, and he was a free agent, and he signed with the team that gave him the best deal, the St. Louis Cardinals. I can't blame him. The guy was only here for a short amount of time, so it's not like we're losing a Barry Larkin to a heated rival or anything like that. So in that regards, yeah, good for Brayan Pena, but I just hope I don't see him raising his arms for another walk-off homer against us. We have to play him several times with the Cardinals. He may not see much action, but it is what it is. No big deal. No hard feelings. As for Aroldis Chapman, yeah, good luck. I mean, Marc Anthony, you signed a hot guy, a hot prospect. Aroldis Chapman probably just, wants to get the best deal he possibly can. I don't really know where this came from. Marc Anthony, the singer, what's he doing in baseball anyway? Is he still dating J-Lo? Is that still a thing? Are they married?
I have no clue. I honestly have no clue. I couldn't name one Marc Anthony song. I have no idea.
Me neither. They both speak Spanish. Maybe that's the only thing they have in common. But good for Aroldis Chapman, I guess, and hopefully our new GM and Walt Jocketty can get together with this guy and maybe go over some records and drink some wine and talk about the best deal to get someone in this team that can help them win in the future. Because we know Aroldis Chapman's not the long-term answer.
Ian?
First, to tackle the Brayan Pena situation. I hate seeing him go. I know he was only here a few years, but he was always a guy that had a smile on his face. He loved going out there for that team. If you follow him on Twitter, I mean, he retweets everybody that sends him anything. He loves interacting with fans. I think he did what was best for him. If you paid any attention to the Cardinals lately, Yadier Molina is wearing down a lot, and he's aging quickly, which I think Molina's only like 30 or 31, but I think, Pena went somewhere where he thinks he's going to see some playing time, and I think he'll get the opportunity to play there. Who knows? We'll see. It really did tug on my heart because I hate seeing a guy like that go, and there was reports coming out that he begged and begged and begged the Reds to re-sign him and told him he'd take a pay cut, and I guess they just didn't go for it, but who knows with that. As far as the Marc Anthony and Aroldis Chapman situation, Marc Anthony earlier this year started I guess you could call it a corporation called Magnus Media, and he toyed with the idea of going into sports agency like Jay-Z did a few years back, and he finally got a couple backers and sports agents, Barry Praver and Scott Shapiro, and they're kind of handling the baseball side of it, but Marc Anthony's the main focus, the main face of it. But everything that I've heard of this is they're really trying to reach out to the Hispanic population in baseball. They're trying to become that agency for where the top Hispanic players go. And with baseball, being so rich in the culture in Latin America, I think it's kind of a great thing what Marc Anthony's trying to do here. Aroldis Chapman is definitely a big person to have as your first client. Like Chris said, I hope he meets up with the new Reds GM and they can work something out as far as finding what's best for both parties as far as trading Chapman. But I think this is a good move for both sides, so it's going to be interesting. But yeah, completely out of left field. Marc Anthony coming into the sports agency world.
Yeah. As for my thoughts on Brayan Pena's move, he's dead to me. I don't know. He was a good dude when he was with the Reds, but like Ian said, he retweets everything. You could literally tweet at him, Brayan Pena, you suck, and he'll retweet it. He does not care. If he sees his name mentioned, he will retweet it. He was a good dude, decent player, but if you move to the Cardinals, you're dead to me. I don't care about him anymore. And as for the Marc Anthony thing, I think it's hilarious, but in my opinion, I don't think it will be our problem much longer. I think Chapman's on the way out. Unfortunately, I would like to see him stay with the Reds, but it's just financially it will not happen. But thank you, Lynn. Appreciate the question. Always love your enthusiasm and everything. Thank you for sending us questions. We appreciate it. So let's move on to the Ohio State Buckeyes. A huge week for the Buckeyes. Played their bitter rival, the team up north. Absolutely demolished them in the Big House, 42-13. Zeke Elliott, a week after him talking in the media and saying he deserved more carries, he proved that. 214 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. J.T. Barrett looked crisp. He had 4 total touchdowns, 3 rushing, 1 throwing. Buckeyes look good all around. They absolutely punched. They stuffed Michigan in a locker. They punched him in the face. It was great as a diehard Buckeye fan. It was great to see all those Michigan fans upset watching their team get beat at home. Trust me, I know the feeling, thanks to Michigan State. But it was absolutely great game for the Buckeyes. As of right now on Tuesday, they released the latest college football playoff rankings. Number 1 is Clemson, 2 is Alabama, 3 is Oklahoma, 4 is Iowa. The first 2 out, 5 is Michigan, and 6 is Ohio State. So the Buckeyes have bumped up 2 spots. We have a couple Ohio State questions. So first one, let's just start with Elliot Sturgis. Elliot wants to know, with Zeke Elliott, odds are heading to the draft. Do you think Curtis Samuel will replace him at running back next season? Now, as the elder statesman of Buckeyes here, I'll take this one, Elliot, and I appreciate the question, man. Curtis Samuel, for those of you who don't know, he's a fantastic playmaker. The OSU coaching staff moved him to wide receiver this year to make him more diverse. They want him to be more versatile. In my opinion, I think they do move him to running back next season. But he's not a workhorse back like Zeke is. So, in my opinion, he will split carries next year. Now, there's a couple players he could split carries with. Freshman Mike Weber or incoming recruit Antonio Williams. Both have the opportunity to split carries with him next year. But by moving Samuel back to running back, it'll open up a H-back position for Demario McCall, who is one of the Buckeyes' biggest recruits coming in this upcoming year, and he is an absolute stud. So by moving Samuel to running back, you actually open up that, and McCall will be on the field more. So, I think you will see Curtis Samuel next year running the football for the Buckeyes. But they're going to return some pretty good players, and they're also going to bring in some pretty good players. But, yeah, I could see Samuel running the ball next year and being just as dominant. Not as dominant as Zeke, because Zeke is just a freak, but he should have a good year next year. But thank you, Elliot. Appreciate it, brother. Next question we have, James Bishop wants to know, any way you guys see the Buckeyes sneaking into the college football playoffs? Ian?
Yeah, there's a ton of scenarios that are being played out on, all the sports networks are the spinning heads talking about everything that needs to happen for every team to get in. Right off the bat, the ACC championship is going to be this weekend, and you've got UNC playing Clemson, who's undefeated, number 1 in the nation, and in the playoff rankings. If UNC was to knock off Clemson, I think that paves the way for the Buckeyes. I think that's the only thing that needs to happen. I think that's the only thing the Buckeyes need to bank on, because there's a lot of teams out there this year that really underperformed if you look at the schedule. You have all these SEC teams talking about, the schedules that they play and stuff, and I've said it for weeks. NCAA football and conference play, playing in your conference and everything, it's one big cycle. 5, 6, 7 years, one conference is strong, then it has to rebuild. It shuffles through everything. It cycles through. When you look at it, everybody loves Alabama because they're a blue blood, in the world of college football. But if you look at their schedule, yeah, there was a lot of teams on their schedule that were ranked at the beginning of the year. Mississippi State was ranked. Georgia was ranked. Texas A&M was ranked. None of those teams are ranked anymore. That's all the SEC hype that's built up. So, yeah, they started out with a schedule that had a ton of teams on it that were ranked. Now that those teams are left out in the dark. They lost to Ole Miss, who is a 3-loss team. So right there, if you examine losses, Ohio State's loss came to a team that's one step ahead of them in the college playoff rankings. Alabama's loss is to a team in Ole Miss that's buried in the playoff rankings. So really, I think if Clemson gets knocked off this week by North Carolina, I think Ohio State's in. A lot of other people are talking about there's going to be some other things that need to happen. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But when the dust clears, I think Ohio State has a solid chance of getting in, especially if Clemson goes down. So it's a waiting game. Unfortunately, we don't control our own destiny. We gotta rely on a few other teams.
Yep. Chris, what about you, man? I know you're a UC guy, but what do you think? Do you think the Buckeyes have any chance of getting in?
Oh, definitely. I pretty much agree with what Ian said. I think that, actually if Florida knocks off Alabama, which is even a much longer shot, I know Florida's sitting there at 18, but Alabama could probably fall down out to number 5, and that would give a spot for Ohio State at 4. The winner of Michigan State and Iowa obviously gets in at 3, and then Oklahoma stays where they are. They don't play another game. So I think either one of those conference championship games goes the other way for the underdog. That definitely moves up the team from number 6 because, since 3 and 4 play each other, one of them's got to lose. So I think there's a great shot. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's not probable. But there's definitely a chance there for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a hard road for Ohio State. Obviously, it's not in their hands. That's always the worst. Here's the scenarios that I think need to play out for Ohio State to have even a chance. So we have Stanford and USC in the Pac-12 title game. If Stanford loses to USC, they're out. No, Pac-12 is out. No way the committee takes a 4-loss USC team. There's absolutely no way. So Pac-12 is out. Then you have Alabama and Florida. Now, odds are Alabama's going to smoke Florida, but say they lose, the SEC's out, in my opinion. I don't see Florida. I don't see the committee taking Florida, and I don't see them taking a 2-loss Alabama. I really don't. So what Ohio State needs, they need Stanford to lose. That's the one they need to lose. Or they need Stanford to lose and Alabama, or they could have Clemson lose to UNC in the ACC title game. UNC has 2 wins this year against FCS teams. It's terrible. There's no way they take UNC if they were to upset Clemson. No way. I think Oklahoma's a lock, even though last year with Baylor and TTU we saw they dropped out because of the way the Big 12 is. So I think Oklahoma's the best team in the country, honestly. I think Ohio State is up there. I think they have a shot. They definitely can make it. The thing that helped Ohio State last year was the eye test. They passed the eye test with Wisconsin, and they definitely passed it with Michigan. I know everybody's been sharing the heck out of that Colin Cowherd video. I know he's become Ohio State fans' favorite radio announcer, if not the best for them. He is absolutely hammering the SEC right now, and he's throwing out some pretty good arguments for the Buckeyes. I hope they get in. As a Buckeye fan, I hope they get in, but it's going to be tough. You need a lot of things to happen for you, but it's not impossible, like Chris said. But yeah, James, thank you for the question, brother. Hopefully, come next week, we'll find out, and hopefully our Buckeyes are sitting there and get a chance to defend their title. But thank you, James. Elliot, appreciate the questions. So let's move on from Ohio State. Let's move on to a little college hoops. College hoops are in full swing, and we have a couple questions. We have we have a Xavier question, which is pretty cool. We have not had a Xavier question yet since we've been doing the show. Awesome. The Xavier question comes from Ken Rice. Ken wants to know, do you think Xavier will crack the top 10 and be a 1 or 2 seed by the time the NCAA tournament rolls around? Chris, what do you think, man?
I think they have a good shot. I mean, they're sitting at number 12 right now in the AP, so literally just a week or so away from cracking the top 10 if they keep winning. The Big East is okay this year. It's not great. Since the Big East split up into the two conferences, it's really watered down the product that used to be the mega basketball conference of 11 bids. And now you have about 5 bids in the American, 5 bids in the Big East. I think at the top of the Big East right now, it's still Villanova. I think Xavier's right there. It's going to be tough for the Big East to get 2 number 1 seeds. It's not to say that it's impossible, but no, definitely Xavier has the offensive firepower to beat anybody, and they definitely proved it numerous times this year. They destroyed a Michigan team. They obliterated the Dayton Flyers, who finally had a shot on national TV to kind of shut up some critics and get back at their old rivals. They blew that game badly. I like Xavier a lot. I think they're the best team in the state right now for sure, and it's tough to see anybody beating this team. I mean, they would have to beat themselves. They make shots.
Yeah, Xavier has 6 wins by double digits this year. They're 7-0, so really great start for the Musketeers. But Ian, what about you, man?
I don't mean to play devil's advocate with Chris, but yeah, I know what you're talking about with the Villanova thing, but Villanova has proved time and time again that they falter in March. And I don't know how many more times they're going to get one of those top seeds and then just lose in the next round. Now, some people may know I'm a Duke fan, so I went through a couple of those rough losses, being a 2 seed, losing to a 15 in the first round. But I don't know. Like Chris said, I think Xavier's the best team in the state of Ohio right now, and if you watch them, they just seem to do everything right. The strength of the schedule, I don't think is going to be there. Be one of the best, one of the best helpers for them come tourney time. But if they roll off, 30+ wins, and they keep the losses down low, 1-2 losses, they could be a 1 seed. They could definitely, there's a definite possibility they could be a 2 seed. But what they're doing right now, as long as they stay healthy, they're looking really sharp out there. So it's going to be tough to beat them.
Yeah, Xavier's currently ranked 12 right now, and if you watch them against UD's got a really good team, and Xavier made them terrible. What Xavier does really well is they force teams into bad shots. They're long on defense, they're fast, and like Chris said, they can score. They have really great shooters. Like I said earlier, they have 6 wins by double digits, and they're 7-0. So they have a really great team. I do believe they're the best team in the state, like Chris said. It's not impossible for them to get a 1 seed. 2 seeds highly likely if they continue to play like they're playing. But I don't know. 1 seed, there's so many good teams in the field this year, and it's a little early to judge that, I know. But if Xavier keeps playing the way they're playing, they have a really, really good team, and yeah, I think they could be right there for a 1 seed. They would have to run off a lot of wins though. But thank you, Ken, and happy early birthday. I know you have a birthday coming up, sir. So thank you for the question. We appreciate it. Now, next up, Chris, your UC Bearcats. Got a couple questions for UC. It's a pretty cool little question from Jake Parrish. He wants to know, and Ian, you're welcome to participate in this as well. I know Chris is our UC guy, but Jake wants to know, list 3 reasons why Xavier will win the Crosstown Shootout, and list 3 reasons why UC will win the Crosstown Shootout. So go ahead, Chris.
Okay, yeah, I like the question. Every year this game is a toss-up. I mean, and whenever these teams come in with one highly favored over the other, it's happened several times. 2 times in the late 90s, UC was ranked the number 1 team in the country. Xavier was unranked, and Xavier beat them both times. So anything can happen in this game. But I think the number 1 reason, if I'm Xavier, 3 reasons Xavier wins this game. Number 1, it's at home. The Centos Center has been a death knell for the Bearcats in the Crosstown Shootout. I think they've only won twice since Xavier moved their games from the Garden to the Centos in the late 90s. Number 2, Xavier would win this game if they can set up the long-range shots. For whatever reason in the shootout, watching them over the last 12 to 15 years, Xavier is unbeatable when this game comes to the Centos at the long-range shots. They can hit the corner 3, they can hit the top of the key 3, they can hit the half-court fadeaway behind the back one-handed if they want to. The ball just goes into the basket during this game. I don't know what happens, but something weird happens with that. Also, if I'm Xavier, I win if I keep the tempo high. UC wants to run a half-court offense. Mick Cronin loves to draw up the plays with the clipboard and make his team run pick and rolls and shoot to the hoop, slow the game down. Xavier has to keep an up-tempo offense, a lot of transition passes and kickouts. If they can do that, if they can rebound the ball in transition and shoot down the court, they got a great chance to win. If I'm Cincinnati, here are my 3 keys to win. I have to defend the 3 ball. UC, I think I wrote about it today. They still have the 4th best defense in the country. You can't let Xavier get hot from 3. You have to guard their point guards around the perimeter. That's number 1. Number 2, try and keep this crowd out of the game. This game hasn't been played in the Centos Center since 2011, the infamous brawl. Let's try and keep the crowd as low as possible with the noise and the distractions. I know it's going to be tough. These people are going to be amped. It's going to be sold out. Both teams are going to be ranked, likely in the top 15. And finally, I want to slow the game down if I'm Cincinnati. Make Xavier beat you in the half court. Don't let them go up and down. Keep the fouls to a minimum. If UC can keep this game in the 60s, they win. If the score goes over 70, Xavier wins. I like Xavier in this game. I know I'm a diehard Bearcat. I'm an alum. I'm going to get crucified for saying it. But I like Xavier in this game if you had a gun to my head, although I'll be rooting hard for UC in this one. So, what do you got, Ian?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one. Actually, I'm not a fan of Xavier or UC, but I am a huge college basketball fan. So my three reasons why I think Xavier will win is, like Chris said, it's at the Centos Center. They are very good at home, and home court advantage always helps any team. They're going to have loud fans there. Obviously, UC will have fans there. It's not very far away, but I think being at home definitely helps Xavier in this one. Xavier also has 5 players averaging double digits this year. UC only has 3, so law of averages will tell you that UC or Xavier may score more points. And also I have Xavier has won 13 of the last 19 meetings between the teams, so odds are in their favor. They're continuing to roll, but UC is due for one. Now, on UC side, I have UC owns the all-time Crosstown Shootout record. They're 49-33 in all-time in the Crosstown Shootout, so history is on UC side. Also, UC has a lot of length. They can disrupt Xavier, and that's what, like Chris said, you have to do to defeat Xavier. You cannot let them get going from 3. You have to. They have really good shooters, and you have to get length on them. That's the best way to defend a good shooting team. And the biggest of all for UC, the biggest key that they have, the biggest advantage is they have Mick Cronin on the sideline. He is one of the best coaches in the country, in my opinion, and I think he's the better coach in this matchup. He's an X's and O's guy, and at the end of the game, that's what you want. You want a guy that's going to draw up a really good play for you and give your team an opportunity to get a good shot off. So. I'm taking Xavier in this one, Jake. But Chris, sorry to go against your Bearcats. I know you would as well. I hope it's a good game though, and I actually would like to see UC upset Xavier. So I don't know if it's much of an upset. I guess it is with the rankings, but UC has a really good team and it's early. So, but yeah, Jake, thank you for the question, sir. Let's move on. We'll move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Mine and Chris's Cincinnati Bengals finally ended their 2-game losing streak.
That was rough.
It was. 2 games was absolutely terrible. 2 games too many. But they finally got back in the win column. Absolutely dominated the St. Louis Rams. 31-7 was the final score. They dominated them in every aspect of the game. It was a great game for Andy Dalton, like Chris mentioned earlier in his best of the week. Absolutely great game for Andy. Great game. I wrote about it for the offensive line. They did not allow Andy to get sacked once. They allowed 140. They opened up holes for 140 yards rushing. The big slobs up front. They've been, we talked about them earlier in a few early shows, and they're a great offensive line. The defense showed up in a big way. I know it's the Rams. I know a lot of people are going to talk trash. It's the Rams, whatever. It was just the Texans, too. We should have beat the Texans. So you got to win the games you're supposed to win. The Bengals definitely came out and did that against the Rams. The defense looked great. Geno Atkins was unstoppable. They had no answer for him in that game. The Bengals got a consistent pass rush on Nick Foles, made him turn the ball over 3 times. They had a pick 6 in that game. Just an absolutely great performance all around from the Bengals. They looked great. Did have a couple injuries in that game, but all in all, they look okay. Good news is Tyler Eifert, who did get a stinger, he has no structural damage or anything, so definitely good news after seeing Gronk go down and kind of gave everyone a scare who has a good tight end. But great game. Chris, what are your thoughts on the Bengals win over the Rams?
Yeah, a couple takeaways. I think Cincinnati got 2 wins on Sunday. They got a win against the Rams, and they got a win against the Steelers with the Seahawks taking them down. You're now looking at a 3-game lead with only 5 to go. I think it's all but a lock. They beat them one more time. It's just about over. The Bengals want this division. I think the division is 90% theirs. But in my mind, they should have their sights set on the number 1 or number 2 seed. And I know that took a little bit of a hit with the Patriots going down. But back to this game in particular, these are the Bengals that we've seen the first 8 games of the season. These are the Bengals that we expected to show up. And for my mind, I actually think this is the same Bengals that flipped the switch and played the Arizona Cardinals tough last week. That's a game that should have gone either way. I had that game picked for Arizona because I knew it was going to be really tough and Carson Palmer was going to be fired up. But it's glad to see Andy Dalton get back on track. High percentage throws. He got A.J. Green involved for 2 touchdowns. He got Tyler Eifert involved. He had his big targets out and ready to go. The offense was clicking. The defense was clicking. Marvin Lewis was just completely coaching circles around Jeff Fisher. I know we hate to see Marvin mismanage some clock, but when you score 31 points, you can afford to do that every now and then. This team's not going to play perfect, but it was pretty darn close on Sunday. I loved what I saw.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I have a couple knocks against the Bengals, actually. So I'm an Andy Dalton lover. I love the guy. I think he's a great quarterback. He did throw that bad interception. That's really one of the only times I've seen him force a ball this year. That was a bad throw. He should not have done that, but whatever. He still controlled the game, looked great. Not knocking Dalton at all. That was just a bad throw. And like you said with Marvin managing the clock, not managing the clock, but managing his personnel. We were dominating the Rams late in the game, and Dalton was still in with, I think, 5 minutes in the game left.
Yeah,
There's no excuse for that. The starter's got to come out. One bad play, and the season's done. Dalton's got to come out. Hill, Gio, take them all out. Let these guys, these backups, get in there and play. Let them. You may need them. You never know. So McCarron actually looked good. He didn't get a big opportunity, but I think he's a really good backup. But all in all, the Bengals look great. That's just a few minor knocks against them. Looked great. Like I said, defense looked great. Offensive line, phenomenal. Andy Dalton was 20-27 for 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He controlled the game. He is so dominant in the red zone right now. It's unbelievable. Tyler Eifert is a freak. Tyler Eifert is the X factor of the Bengals. 12 touchdowns. He leads the NFL in touchdowns right now. He leads every receiver. He set the Bengals all-time season record or all-time single season record for touchdowns by a tight end. He's a stud. Tyler Eifert's a stud, and like I wrote about, he had that big fumble recovery. Gio fumbled that ball, and Eifert chased the play down. Just like they mentioned in the game, the announcer said, just like in basketball, you're always taught as a big man to follow your guards or whoever because you never know if they're going to miss a layup and you're going to have to put one back in. And he absolutely did that. He kept the momentum in the Bengals' favor there, and just all around, Eifert, AJ dominated. It's good to see AJ get back in the end zone. He had not scored a touchdown since Week 8 against the Steelers. Just this good all-around game. They just looked good in every aspect. They didn't really get that injured and banged up, so it's just good to see. It's great feeling to get back in the win column, and I'm telling you, it's a great feeling to write about it after a win. After a loss is just terrible, just awful. And up next, they got the Cleveland Browns. And speaking about writing about tough losses, Ian, just absolutely awful. Another tough loss. A game they should have won. Another game they should have won against the Baltimore Ravens. Last-second field goal. Browns lining up to kick it to win. It gets blocked. The Ravens scoop and score to win the game. Absolutely terrible, Ian. I'll be honest. I didn't watch the game. I was writing my Bengals blog. Ian texted me and said, only in Cleveland. And I just knew something bad happened. Ran to a TV, watched the replay, and I just texted him like, man, I am so sorry for you and Browns fans. And I truly am. I don't know what a franchise has done. I do not know what a franchise or what has happened for you guys to deserve this much bad fortune. Ian, walk us through it. I mean, what was as a Browns fan, lining up for that field goal? It's a big win over a team you hate. just walk us through it, man. Walk us through your recap of the game.
Well, I got to be honest with you. Sending Travis Coons out there to kick that field goal, I was confident. Coons has been perfect all season when it comes to field goals. He's missed a couple extra points, but they've been hiccups. But he's proven he can split the uprights when it comes down to scoring 3 for us. So I was pretty amped up when he got the opportunity to go out there and kick that field goal, and then in a matter of seconds it was over. As far as the entire game goes, started out bad. Defense comes out there against Matt Schaub, who's filling in for the injured Joe Flacco. They hold the Ravens on their first possession. Browns take over. Not really able to move the ball early on in their first drive. Then the Boo Birds come out. If anyone knows anything about me, that it just irritates me beyond belief. I become irate when I hear the Boo Birds when it's a home game. So Andy Lee comes out, punts the ball, fantastic punt. Some clown from the Ravens brings it back 84 yards for a touchdown, and it's just here we go again. So, Browns come back out, can't put anything together. Ravens get the ball, add another 3 points onto the scoreboard. Browns are able to bring it to 10-3, and then the Ravens strike again. I'm just like, man, we're not going to be able to keep up with this. It's just going to be ugly. It's going to turn ugly quick. McCown's touchdown pass to Marlon Moore. It was kind of shocking to see the guy move that well. His body has taken a beating all season, and there was a lot of tweets saying he was channeling his inner Manziel. I don't want to give any credit to Manziel, but I mean, he danced around. He danced out of the pocket, got out of danger, and threw a nice little pass, dumped it off to Marlon Moore for the touchdown. And then we were able to kick a field goal before halftime. Going into halftime, that's how you live being a Browns fan. It's up and down, up and down. So, I was back on cloud 9. I'm like, you know what? We got a shot. Come out in the second half, give up a score, fight back, get it to where it's respectable, lose the ball again to Baltimore. We're having trouble moving it again. And, the fourth quarter comes around, and at the start of the fourth quarter, the Browns had only had the ball for 5 minutes. The offense had only had the ball for 5 minutes. So it was one of those things where our defense is on the field too long. And I tweeted about it. The defense was just time and time again, breakdown after breakdown after breakdown. And then finally they got a couple big stops. McCown goes out there on a third down, and he gets rocked as he's throwing the pass, and the second defender comes over and just drives him right into the ground. I knew immediately the way he fell, he was going to be done. They came out, they punted the ball, and then after holding him to a 3-and-out, McCown came right back out. So I was kind of in shock, but I was like, Pettin's going with this guy. I stand behind Pett. I like him. And he came out, and then after I think his second pass of the drive, he winced in pain, and he said he was done. So that's when the fans started chanting Johnny. And that irritates me because, if anything, Mike Pettin stands behind his word. He's not going to go back on his word. And here come the fans just chanting Johnny. Well, that didn't happen. We went to Austin Davis, who was number 2 on our depth chart. His first pass, he misses Gary Barnidge completely. It was terrible. And then I'm thinking, well, this one's over. Browns punted away. Defense comes up. Defense is so spotty. I didn't know what to think. But they play like a Pro Bowl team, like a defense full of Pro Bowlers, and get a quick 3-and-out. And here comes Davis back out there. Fans chanting Johnny. He dumps off a couple short passes that actually loses yards. And then he finds Travis Benjamin for a nice first down. So the fans kind of start to quiet down. And then on the very next pass, Austin Davis throws probably one of the prettiest passes I've seen all year with the Cleveland Browns to a streaking Benjamin down the field for a touchdown that ties the game with under 2 minutes left. And right then and there, I was on cloud 9. That was my Super Bowl. I hate the Ravens. The whole Art Modell thing, I was like, here we go. We're going to get a win. Defense comes out, holds them. Actually, we get an interception. Tramon Williams finally decides he wants to do something. Picks off Schaub. We get into field goal territory, and then the debacle happens. As a Browns fan, I can't say I'm completely surprised by it. We find new ways to lose, it seems like, every week. The offense played well enough to win it. And I know I've said it time and time again, you guys are probably sick of me saying this, but for years and years we haven't been known for offense. And this year we're well, the running game's not there, but our passing game has been pretty good this year.
Yeah,
McCown,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
in that game, dude, McCown, he had pretty good numbers. He was 21 of 38. He had 212 yards passing, and he had a touchdown. I mean, you want to see him throw a couple more touchdowns, maybe, but I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, Gary Barnidge is a monster. He's a piece to build around. But yet again, I mean, just to see McCown go down and a guy that, he's had an all right year surrounded by a terrible team, that line is so bad, it's unreal. I mean, now that McCown's down, are the Browns on the clock for a quarterback? I mean, they're going to get one of the and speaking of on the clock, I picked the Browns to win. I wanted them to win that game, but I'm kind of glad the Ravens did. No offense, Browns fans, and the only reason I say that is the Ravens know how to draft. And could you imagine them getting a first-round pick, or the first overall pick, second overall pick? They're going to take somebody that's going to help their franchise immensely. They are very banged up, and Cleveland has just ruined pick after pick. I'm not trying to pick on you guys at all, but I'm just saying I do not want the Ravens to get a super high pick because they know what to do with it. But speaking of on the clock, I mean, are the Browns now on the clock for a quarterback? E?
When they signed McCown in the offseason, I believe it was a 3-year deal. It could have been a 2-year deal, but I know it was multi-year. And he's been a solid. He's a solid veteran. He's a proven veteran in the league. He's been mostly backup everywhere he's went. He's had the one good year in Chicago, but this year, if you look at his numbers and the amount of games he's played in, he's played well enough to win every game he's played in, and he's given his heart and soul and his body to Cleveland. I mean, that offensive line has not protected him whatsoever. That's what you guys talked about the Bengals, and you said nobody from the Rams got to Andy and knocked them down. It's like, God, I would love that for 1 week, just so McCown can, not be throwing frantically. And even when he has to throw frantically, he's throwing good passes. But as far as moving forward, they came out today and announced that he is done for the year. There's a fracture in his collarbone. I don't want to draft a quarterback with the top pick again. We messed that up. We're going to take the wrong guy.
You guys have to go either skill position, no running backs. You have to go skills position or line. You have to.
Or if we end up with the first pick, you trade down because there's somebody that'll trade up to get a quarterback. San Francisco's out there. They're the first team that comes to my mind as far as a quarterback. And I know everybody always thinks about the Browns needing a quarterback, but San Francisco, they come to my mind first on, possibly trading up to get that number 1 pick if the Browns end up with it. But you've got to trade down, like you said, Jared. You got to go skill position, or you got to build that offensive line because Alex Mack's gone at the end of the year. He's going to opt out. Joel Bitonio, he's coming out of injury. Cam Irving's trying to pick up in the middle of the season, not knowing the playbook. Joe Thomas is getting worked. I mean, it's just that whole right side's got awful with Schwartz and Greco. But
yeah, it's really bad. It's so bad, dude. So bad to watch.
Moving forward, you've got to put a plan in place, and we've talked about it. Unfortunately, Cleveland's become this job and this destination where you have to win now to keep your job. And we've talked about, I feel like we're beating a dead horse, but they don't give these coaches any time. They don't give a system any time. I'm not saying Mike Pettin is Bill Belichick. I'm not saying our coordinators are the top coordinators in the league. But if you leave a system in place, if you draft the right guys, if you scout the right guys, if you have the right personnel in place, you can start to build something. And that's what it takes. It's not, like we've said, it's not an overnight process. You got to keep building. You got to build each year, and you got to do what you can. Moving forward next season, starting quarterback, Josh McCown. That's what I say. If you get the number 1 pick, you trade down. McCown out for the year. Let him rest up. Get him better. Let him come back next season. Do what he did this season.
So if I am the Browns GM, I know for 100%, for a fact, 100% certainty, if I took over as GM of the Cleveland Browns, I would turn that franchise around simply because I would keep Mike Pettin there. He's a good coach. Keep his system in place. He's a good coach. Next move I would do, I get rid of Johnny Manziel. I trade him, or trade him to Dallas for a 7th-round pick. I'm going to use that 7th-round pick as either a trading piece or I'm going to draft a player that's going to work their ass off to try to make my roster. Secondly, if I get the first or third, if I get the first pick, like you said, I trade it down. I'm drafting linemen. I'm drafting skills players. I like the idea of McCown, but if there's a good quarterback 3rd, 4th round, I'm taking them. I'm going to let them develop and see what they got. I'm drafting linemen. This team's line is so bad. It's so bad. It doesn't matter who you have at quarterback. It doesn't matter. They would be terrible behind that line.
You're
That
exactly
line,
right.
I guarantee I could turn that franchise around. I guarantee it. So Cleveland Browns, if you're out there listening, start a Kickstarter or a fund or something to put me or Ian or Chris as your GM because I guarantee we would turn that team around. Your GM's terrible. He doesn't care. All he cares about is money. You guys have the most loyal fan base in the NFL. You guys, the Browns find new ways to lose games, and yet they show up every week. They show up every week and they sell out that game or they sell out that stadium. The ownership of the Browns is so terrible, it's unbelievable. That is the most blue-collar town in America. Those people probably work one shitty job or 2 shitty jobs that they hate, and all they want to do is see their Browns win one damn game a year, and you guys find ways to blow it for that team every single year. This is coming from a diehard Bengals fan who's been there. We've been there. We saw it. Mike Brown, thank God, if you saw the promo for the Cardinals-Bengals game, Carson said it wasn't about money when I abandoned my team. It was because I had a misunderstanding with Mike Brown. I want to change. He wanted Marvin Lewis gone. That's what he wanted. And Mike Brown said, no, I'm keeping Marvin Lewis. He's a good coach. Thank God he did, because look where we're at now. We could have an old quarterback with 2 terrible knees throwing deep bombs and trying to run to the sideline that takes 30 seconds to get there. No, thank God he kept Marvin Lewis. The Browns have to do the same thing with Pettin. They have to. He's a good coach. In the post-game press conference last night, he took all the blame for that. He said, it's my fault. We should have finished the game. You did finish the game. You finished that game. Your kicker got the kick block. That's unfortunate. Your team was in a place to win that. You have a clutch kicker. He's been good all year. You should have made that. That's just stupid things that happen in games. I would be sick after that game if I was a Browns fan. Obviously, tons of fans were. I saw the videos online today. But I guarantee I could turn that franchise around. So Cleveland Browns fans, start a Kickstarter. I will turn your franchise around. And I'll even wear Cleveland Browns stuff because I'll be a billionaire. And I'll win a Super Bowl for Cleveland. But, yeah, Chris, do you have anything to add to this, man?
I just want to say one thing about the Browns. I just see history repeating itself over and over and over. Ian's spiel about, and I agree with everything he said about Josh McCown. You could have replayed that exact phrasing last year and inserted Brian Hoyer's name instead of Josh McCown. Hoyer's a guy that's going to work your ass off. He needs an offensive line to give him time to make plays. He's loyal to Cleveland. And repeat. You know, it's like the same thing every year. And as far as the ownership goes, I hate to say this, I like Mike Pettin. I don't think he comes back. I think they just keep making the same mistake. They're going to refresh at coach, and they may even refresh again at quarterback. I mean, we're talking about things that they should do. I don't think that's things that they're going to do. I hope I'm wrong, but I just see the same things, the same pattern with this team over and over.
Yeah, it's terrible. He's a really good coach. He deserves – and Browns fans, I know when you're at the lowest of lows after watching your team lose, you're going to find scapegoats. And I know the coach is always usually the first one, followed by the quarterback. Pettin's a really good coach. Johnny Manziel is not a good quarterback. He's got to go. He is a – you don't want this negativity in your locker room. You don't. As a captain of that team, you don't want that. I can't. Joe Thomas should step up and say, Johnny, shut the hell up. Stay out of the news. You're putting a black eye on this franchise that's already covered in black eyes. You know, it's just ridiculous, man, to watch this franchise consistently mess up, consistently each year, just ruin their draft picks. Another move I do, if I take over as GM, I fire the scouts because they're terrible. They're obviously not doing a good enough job. Look at your guys' skills players. They're terrible. Travis Benjamin's good. Barnage is a good player. But other than that, what else do you have? Duke Johnson could be good. You guys don't run him enough. Could be good, but he can't run behind that terrible line. So many terrible mistakes by that franchise. It just drives me nuts, and I'm a Bengals fan. I want the Browns to be competitive. They already play in the toughest division in football year in and year out, so it's already hard enough for them. But I have tons of friends that are Cleveland fans, and I know the misery they go through. Ian's a great friend of mine. I know the misery he goes through. So I feel for you Cleveland fans. It's terrible. It's an awful way to lose. I mean, week in and week out, it's something new. We talk about it each week. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. Ian, I know you are, man.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that's enjoyable every year, but stick with them and try and right the ship. Like Chris said, it's very, very possible that Pettin's gone after this year, and you're gonna get somebody new in, so it's gonna have to try and do better than the guy before him, and they're gonna bring in a new quarterback. I think I read the stat today or saw the tweet where if Austin Davis starts against the Bengals, it's gonna be like the 26th quarterback the Bengals have faced against Cleveland in 13 years.
That is so terrible. It is so ridiculous.
That tells you right there what kind of shape this franchise is in.
It's so ridiculous, but whatever. Speaking of ridiculous and shitty, let's get into our NFL picks from last week because mine were terrible. You want to recap our picks from last week?
Yeah, let's do it. Jared, you finished up at 8-8. You brought up the rear this week. Chris was 9-7. I finished off the week at 10-6. That gives me my 5th weekly win. Chris and I both with 5 weekly wins. Jared's still at top with 6. Jared's overall record is 105-70. I'm at 102-73. Chris is at 101-74.
This is an absolute dogfight, boys. We got 5 weeks remaining. Just absolute dogfight to the end. And for those of you who don't know, maybe just be picking up our show, loser of the weekly picks, whoever has the least amount of weekly picks at the end, has to wear their rival team's jersey. So for me or Chris, it will be a Browns jersey. We'll have to wear it in our Facebook, Twitter, whatever it may be, social media profile pictures, for at least a week. We haven't really nailed down an exact time, but at least a week. It's going to be miserable. So we're fighting for our lives each week. And that's both of us, by the way. There's only one winner in this. There's no middle. Like, you don't get lucky enough. That's the bottom two. There's one winner. Bottom two have to wear it. So, yeah, that's what's on the line with our weekly picks and pride. We are prideful men here. So, and
we got a tight one, man. We're past the halfway point. From top to bottom, there's only 4 individual games separating us.
Yeah, it's close. It's definitely this is a heavyweight fight. So hopefully I can get back on in my winning ways here because last week was terrible. But let's go ahead and get into our NFL picks for Week 13. First game on the board, we have the Green Bay Packers on the road taking on the Detroit Lions on Thursday Night Football. Chris, who do you have in this one, sir?
The Lions looked great on Thanksgiving, like they usually do, and like we all said they would. I think they used their turkey magic. The Pack is back. I'm going Green Bay to take the Lions. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Stafford has his up and down games. He was certainly up last week, but I think Green Bay has the better team. They get the win.
Ian?
A few weeks back, Detroit knocked off Green Bay at Lambeau, first time since 1991. That's the last time they swept the Packers in a season. I'm going with the Lions this week. I think the Lions are playing good. I think the Packers are trying to play catch-up, and the Packers are going to be focusing too much on keeping pace with the Vikings, who are a game up on them. I'm going Lions at home.
Yeah, this was actually a tough game for me to pick. The Packers have not looked like their normal selves. They've not looked good. I hate Matt Stafford. He did look great last week, and he helped me out with Calvin Johnson. I have Calvin on my fantasy team, so thank you for that. But all in all, I just don't see the Lions sweeping the Packers this year. I'm taking the Packers on the road to win this one. Next game, we have mine and Chris's Cincinnati Bengals on the road, Battle of Ohio, taking on Ian's Cleveland Browns. I'm going to let Chris lead this one off. Chris, who do you have in this one, sir?
Okie doke. So we've got a new quarterback now to game plan for, but hopefully he's going to be behind the same offensive line and the same defensive line is going to rush. Look, the Bengals have things on track, and I know it's in Cleveland, and last year I think the Battle of Ohio split. I think both road teams won last year, if I'm not mistaken, and they won big. I don't think it splits this year. I think Cincinnati is the better team. I think they get the win. Cleveland's a mess. Going Bengals.
Ian?
Cincinnati is the better team, but I said back the week where the Browns went to Cincinnati, I told the Cleveland fans that, hey, I got to get some picks in that are correct. I'm not going to abandon you twice in one season against the Bengals for the Battle of Ohio. I'm going with the Browns at home.
There you go. So loyalty there. You guys know what I'm doing. Week in and week out, I say it. I will take the Cincinnati Bengals every week this year. Don't care if they're playing the 85 Bears. I think the Bengals got a really, really good team. They could arguably be 11-0. Unfortunately, they're not, but they do have a great team. The Browns are a mess, like Chris said. I'm taking the Bengals in this one. The Bengals own this series 45-39 all time against the Browns, and Dalton only needs 29 yards to join Peyton Manning as the only two players to ever pass for 3,000-plus yards in their first 5 NFL seasons. So that's a great accomplishment for Andy. He's definitely going to get that, hopefully. But I'm taking the Bengals in this one. So yeah, we all stay loyal with our teams there. Next one on the list, we got the New York Jets on the road. Not really. They play in the same stadium, but the New York Jets will be the away team against the New York Giants. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Battle of the Big Apple. I think the Giants struggled last week. Eli Manning started off the game throwing 3 interceptions. He tried to finish it up for the win at the last minute. Didn't happen. Washington beats him. I like the Jets on their road home. I think the Jets have a little bit of momentum going here. I like the way they've been using their run game, and their offense is clicking. The Giants, on the other hand, Eli's a little too shaky for me, so I think the Jets take care of business here.
Ian?
Giants are always tough for me. You just never know which Eli's going to show up. Jets are playing good football, and like we said, it's pretty much a home team for both teams. Looks like I'm getting dominated in picks this week, but I'm taking the Giants.
Man, yeah, I'm gonna agree with Chris on this one. Eli has thrown 5 interceptions in his past 3 games. Now, in his defense, nobody in the NFL has worse interceptions than Eli Manning. His balls hit the receivers right in the hands. They get tipped up in the air 5 times, intercepted. So his interceptions are kind of watered down, I guess you could say. His interceptions, I mean, they're hitting receivers right in the hands. He does have Odell Beckham, who's an absolute freak. Probably made the catch of the year. Again, that guy's always in there for catch of the year. But I'm going to take the Jets. They got a really good defense, and I don't know. I just think they're going to eat Eli alive in this game. So I'm going to take the Jets at home on the road in this one. Next game, we have Ian's Arizona Cardinals on the road taking on the St. Louis Rams. Ian, who do you have in this one, sir?
Rams are in a downward spiral. The Cardinals are proving that they're the cream of the crop besides the Panthers in the NFC. I think the Cardinals keep it going. They win on the road against St. Louis.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree with Ian. I think the Cardinals are on a mission. They want to take that NFC title. They want to go all the way to the Super Bowl. Carson Palmer knows this may be his last shot, and it's going to be in the Dome. He's going to throw for a ton of yards, and they're going to put up a ton of points. Cardinals win big.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Cardinals in this one. Easiest pick on the card. Rams stink. Jeff Fisher sucks. He's right there with the Ryan brothers for me as useless coaches who've done nothing but get tons of praise. Jeff Fisher sucks. Called a timeout with 8 seconds left in the beatdown they took to the Bengals, which was stupid. Just hated that so much. It just ate at me, and I already hate the guy. I'm taking the Cardinals in this one. I hope they wax the Rams. Next game, we have the Atlanta Falcons, the struggling Atlanta Falcons, on the road taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Well, the perception of both these teams are a little bit strange because you keep waiting for the Falcons to be good and you keep waiting for the Bucs to be bad, but this season has turned out to be just the opposite. I think Tampa Bay is getting it rolling. Atlanta's not the same team on the road, and actually they're not the same team this year at home either, so I think the Bucs are playing better football. I like them in this one.
Ian?
Falcons have lost 4 in a row and 5 of 6. I like the Buccaneers to win this one at home.
Yeah, like Ian said, the Falcons have lost a couple games here, but they're losing by like 3, 1, 2, 3. It's all on Matt Ryan. He's looked terrible. He's the past few weeks he just looks so bad. But I like the Falcons to get back on track on this one. They got a lot of offensive weapons, and I think Freeman will be back this week, hopefully for my fantasy team's sake. I'm taking the Falcons on the road in this one. Next game, we got the Seattle Seahawks on the road taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Chris, who do you have in this one?
This one was the toughest game on the card for me. I keep waiting on the Vikings to kind of break out of this good but not great mold, and I think this is the week where they do it. I think they get everything working. Adrian Peterson just went completely berserk last week. Teddy Bridgewater's got his thing going. Now, the Seahawks did look good against the Steelers. However, they're not the same team on the road. They've lost more games this year than they should have. I like Minnesota in this game.
Ian?
Yeah, I like the Vikings at home. Zimmer's got a good thing going there, and they're trying to stay on top of that division, not let up on the Packers.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys on this one. I like the Vikings at home. I love Mike Zimmer. The Vikings have kind of become my NFC team because of Coach Sim. The Seahawks have, except running back, I think they're better than the Vikings at every position. But like Chris said, they're not that great on the road. Russell Wilson is 12-2 in his career in December, but I think he's going to add a loss to that. I like the Vikings at home. Next game, we got the Houston Texans on the road taking on Sexy Rexy's Buffalo Bills. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Sexy Rexy versus Houston Texy. I like Sexy Rexy to get it done. The Bills just keep on rolling. They're in a dogfight right now for that last wild card spot with Kansas City and Pittsburgh. They're all just kind of crowded together. So I think this game means a lot to both teams. Houston wants it too. I think Houston actually is in one of the wild card seats as it is. So this is a huge game for both teams, but I think the Bills get it done on this one just based on their offense. Tyrod Taylor's looking like he's getting things together.
Ian?
Both teams are in it right now. They're both fighting for their lives. I don't know. I think the Texans look like they've got their game more complete right now. They're looking like a more polished product at the end of each game. I'm going with the Texans over Sexy Rexy on the road.
Yeah, I hate Rex Ryan. You guys know that. If you've listened to our show, you know how much I hate the Ryan brothers. But I'm taking the Texans in this one on the road. Their defense is playing well. They're starting to click. They're doing things right, and they're in a battle for that division as well too. I'm gonna take the Texans in this one. Next game, we have the Ravens on the road taking on the Miami Dolphins. Chris, who do you have in this one?
These are two mediocre to bad teams, two disappointing teams. I think they at least had aspirations of being better. Certainly the Ravens for sure. I think there were some Pete Prisco had them picked as a Super Bowl favorite. That's not looking so hot right now. I like the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins actually have more of a complete football team. They have a quarterback for one, and they have a really good passing game. Tannehill went off last week. In the loss, however, I do like the Dolphins in this one, though.
Ian?
Said the Dolphins fired their head coach, brought in a new head coach and won. Now they fired their offensive coordinator, bringing in a new offensive coordinator. I'm going with the Dolphins to win this game. I despise the Ravens, especially after last night.
Yeah, Ravens are so banged up. It's unreal. I'm taking the Dolphins on this one. It's an easy pick for me. Next game, we have the Jaguars on the road taking on the Tennessee Titans. Chris, who do you have in this one, sir?
Chris Bowl Part 2.
Oh, yeah, Chris's Super Bowl. Jags, Titans. Chris, who you got?
Very excited about this one, yeah. I'm going to abstain somehow that they end in a tie in overtime at 0-0. No, I can't do that. I do think that one team is going to get into the end zone. If not the end zone, then at least put it up to the goalposts. Actually, the offensives of both of these teams aren't completely terrible. If only they could keep the other team from scoring. I think the Titans have the advantage, though. I think their game is a little more complete. Jacksonville relies too much on the arm of Blake Bortles to win them games from behind. It's worked 4 times this year. It can't work every time. I'm going Tennessee.
Ian?
Of those 4 times, it did work against the Titans the first time these two teams met up, and I believe he torched the Titans. Titans are the only team in the NFL that are winless at home, and I think that continues this week. I'm taking the Jaguars.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys watched the Jaguars game last week. Bortles threw 2 passes. He was like 5 yards in front of the line of scrimmage. It was insane. He did that twice in the game. He's a great player. They got a lot of good young receivers on that team, actually. However, I'm taking the Titans at home. I think their fortunes at home will change. Delaney Walker is on my fantasy team, so I hope he gets in the end zone 25 times. I'm taking the Titans in this one. Next game, we have the awful San Francisco 49ers on the road taking on Mr. Fourth Quarter and Jay Cutler and the Chicago Bears. Chris, sir, who do you have in this one?
I like the Bears. 49ers are bad, and they're worse on the road. They may be the worst team in the NFL. I'm not sure. It's going to be tough between them and the Browns, but I'm going with the Bears in this one for sure. That's a no-brainer.
Ian?
I want to play the 49ers. I want to see how that goes. But I'm going to go with the Bears this week.
Yep, Bears. 49ers suck. Tom Sula is an awful, awful, awful coach. I'm taking the Bears in this one. Next game, we have the Broncos and Brock Osweiler on the road taking on the San Diego Chargers. Chris, who do you have in this one?
I like the Broncos, or the Broncos. I think they have a lot of momentum going. You know, they're looking for that number 1 seed, and why not? They're sitting there at the 3 seed now in the AFC, just behind the Bengals because they lost to 2 AFC teams. But the Chargers are way inferior as far as these 2 teams go, so I think the Broncos just have too much offense for them.
Ian?
I think a lot of people could perceive this game as being a trap game for Denver, but like Chris said, Broncos are way more inferior. I'm going with the Broncos on the road.
Yeah, you beat me to the punch in this one. I actually think it could be a lot closer than what people think. Rivers slings the ball, man. He's going to throw it like 50, 60 times. So he's got Antonio Gates back. I don't know, but I think the Broncos are just too good defensively. And Osweiler's look really good, and I think Manning's in trouble. And that's weird to say, but if I'm the Broncos, I run with Osweiler the rest of the season until he shows me that, hey, he's not getting it done. He's done a very good job in the 2 games. Beating New England is, I know he had a lot of help from the refs, but that's some task. So
he protects the ball. He holds on to the ball well.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't force a lot of things either, so that's what I've noticed about him. But I'm taking the Broncos in this one. Next game, we have the Kansas City Chiefs on the road taking on the Raiders in the Black Hole. Chris, who do you have in this one?
This is a tough one. Divisional game. The Raiders can beat anyone in that division, including the Broncos, if they play them at home. And I know the Chiefs are fighting for their playoff lives here, but this is going to be my upset pick. I'm going to go with the Raiders at home. I think they have a lot to gain by knocking off a division rival, and they can be sneaky in this game. So give me Oakland.
Ian?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be a really good one. I think it's a low-key possibility of game of the week. The Raiders have showed promise this year, but I think the clock runs out on them this week. Chiefs are hot right now. They're winners of 5 in a row. I like the Chiefs to get it done on the road.
I'm going to agree with Chris in this one. I'm taking the Raiders at home. Carr's a great young quarterback. He's got some pretty good weapons around him. Chiefs defense let me down in fantasy last week, and for that reason, I'm going against them. I'm taking the Raiders at home in this one. Next up on the card, we have the undefeated Carolina Panthers on the road taking on the New Orleans Saints in the Dome. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Well, the team that everyone had picked to be the last team standing in the undefeated column, the Carolina Panthers. Not me. I had them actually as the weakest when they had 8 undefeated teams. I thought they were going to get knocked off first. Didn't work out that way. And I think they keep things rolling. The Saints are not a good team without the core of their defense healthy. They've never really had a great defense, but they lost their horrible defensive coordinator, and they weren't that good to begin with. They can only get better from here, but the Panthers roll, and Cam Newton is going to put up huge numbers in the Dome.
Ian?
I thought the Panthers were going to have a rough go of things this year. With Kelvin Benjamin going down in the preseason, being out for the year, I'm like, there goes his number 1 target. Cam Newton's proved that he is a viable MVP candidate. Until they get beat, I can't go against them. I know I've said that about other teams. I've went against them a couple times this year, and it's burnt me. I'm going with the Panthers. I believe in them.
I'm here to tell everyone that listens to this show, Cam Newton is the MVP of the league. The guy is incredible. He has done wonders for that offense without a lot of weapons, too. The Panthers have the best defense in the league. The Saints have the worst. The Saints may have the worst defense in the history of the NFL. This defense right now may be the worst ever in the history of the NFL. So terrible. Rob Ryan, you suck. I hope you're listening to this in your beat-down car in an Arby's parking lot. You suck. Your brother sucks. You destroyed the Saints defense. Panthers go off. Cam has 6 or 7 touchdowns in this game. They go off on the Saints.
Easy.
Easy. They destroy them, and Drew Brees is going to get eaten alive by that number 1 defense in the league in the Panthers. They are going to eat Drew Brees alive. Saints fans, I wouldn't even show up to this game. Empty stadium. It's going to be that bad. I'm taking the Panthers in this one. Stand defeated. Next game, we have Chip Kelly's Eagles on the road taking on the Patriots in Foxborough. Patriots coming off a loss. Not good for the rest of the league. You poke the bear, stuff's going to happen. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, I'm with you, especially coming off a loss and coming home. We saw what happened when the media started doubting Tom Brady, and our Bengals got the bad end of that one a couple years ago, just completely shredded. Now, I'm not saying that anyone's being doubted. I know Gronkowski went down with an injury, and he's questionable. Is likely to probably play in this game, maybe limited. But the Patriots are going to win. They're going to win big at home.
Ian?
A pissed off Tom Brady is no Tom Brady that I want to play. I'm taking the Patriots.
Yeah, Tom Brady's the best quarterback of all time. I say that. I hate the Patriots. He's a Michigan guy, so it pains me to say, but he is. If I was building a franchise around a young player, I want Tom Brady around leading my team at quarterback. He is so good. He's so clutch. They're the worst fans. They're assholes. They're cocky, but they have every right to be. And the Patriots at home, best coach ever on the sideline, best quarterback ever under center against a struggling Eagles team that gave up tons of points to Tampa Bay at home. No chance. I'm taking the Patriots all day in Foxborough. I think it's going to be a bloodbath. So I'm taking the Patriots in this one. Next game, we have the Indianapolis Colts and Matt Hasselbeck, who's undefeated this year, on the road, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sunday Night Football. Chris, who do you have in this one?
I like Matt Hasselbeck, and he may even actually been a better option than Andrew Luck. Who would have thought that? I just think he takes care of the ball better. He makes a lot less reckless decisions, but that's because he doesn't have the arm strength, so maybe it's kind of working to their advantage there. But I like the Steelers in this game. The Steelers have some momentum over their big win on primetime. I think they keep it going, especially in primetime at home. The Steelers are tough to beat. I'm going Pittsburgh.
Ian?
To go back on what you said about Osweiler, Jared, you said that he doesn't force a lot, and I think that's what we're seeing with Hasselbeck. Now, granted, he's been in the league for 72 years, but he's smart out there, and he's protecting the ball. He is undefeated as a starter. He's getting it done. I'm going to take the Colts to win one on the road here on Sunday night.
That's a big pick, and I hope it happens as a Bengals fan. However, I don't believe it will. I think the Steelers, if Ben plays, I know he's in the concussion protocol. They said he's probable, but he is in the NFL's concussion protocol right now. So I'm taking the Steelers, though. Sunday Night Football, like Chris said, they're hard to beat at home, and they have if Ben's playing and Antonio Brown's on the field, then they got some players they're making big plays, and their defense is pretty terrible. They're secondary, but I think they'll find a way to win this one at home. So I'm taking the Steelers, as much as that pains me to say. Final game of the week. This is an awful, awful game. Terrible division. Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys on the road taking on the Washington Redskins. Chris, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, what a pathetic display for the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and their excuse of rolling out Tony Romo in a wheelchair just to only see him get hurt. Like Jared has been warning us over and over all year, he's going to get hurt. Why would you do this? And sure enough, here he goes with a fall on the collarbone, the same clavicle that he had broken before, re-injures himself, and is out for the year. So you just burnt your franchise quarterback. Now you wasted a win with him starting his first game. You ruined yourself some draft position. The Redskins have some fire. I don't know what's going on with them, but they're actually putting up a decent amount of points, and I think they have a little bit of a win streak going. At home, I like the Redskins in this one to beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys are in a really bad spot right now.
Ian?
Yeah, Redskins are 5-1 at home. I picked them to keep it rolling. Cowboys are in such a rough spot right now.
If anyone takes my advice, they would be so much better. These NFL teams need to call me. Jerry Jones should have called me. Jared, what should we do with Tony Romo? Well, Jerry, I'd bench him the rest of the year because he's a quarterback and he takes a lot of sacks, and he's going to fall on that clavicle. Guaranteed he will fall on it. And sure enough, Thanksgiving Day, he falls on it, breaks his clavicle. He's out, the same one he broke earlier in the year. It's the most brittle bone in the body, people. It's going to break if you fall on it. Just awful break for the Cowboys. I know they're banged up. But to lose Romo, it may be time to move on from Romo. And that's a bold, bold statement. But clavicles with quarterbacks don't mix. It does not mix. Jerry Jones on his radio show today said that he sees Romo being the quarterback for the Cowboys for the next 4 to 5 years. And I don't know if I believe that. I would probably draft the quarterback and start raising young talent now. Romo's a great quarterback, but he is so injury-plagued it's unreal. I'm taking the Redskins. The Cowboys are not good. They stink. They need a running back. Their line's not been as good as advertised. Defense isn't that great. They don't have a quarterback. They're just in a world of hurt. And the Redskins are battling for that division. They probably will win it. So, I don't know. I'm taking the Redskins. May not even watch that game. It's going to be bad. But those are our picks of the week. Now, next up, we end the show every week with our bold prediction for this upcoming week. Real quick, Chris, what is your bold prediction, sir?
Well, I'm going to go back into the college football world because I love talking college. I like talking college football and on college hoops. And we keep talking about these coaches who just seem to just keep circling around and getting jobs like the Ryan brothers and the Norv Turners of the world. But I'm going to pull another name out of the hat with the silly season happening. I think Lane Kiffin, by this film next week, will have a job in a Division I school as a head coach. The offensive coordinator of Alabama resurfaces again. Lane Kiffin finds a job.
Pete?
Well, that school's screwed. I'm going with this week my bold prediction. North Carolina will knock off Clemson. I think that's all that needs to happen for Ohio State to get propelled into the college Final Four. I respectfully disagree with Jared. I don't think the Stanford game plays into it at all. Stanford has lost to Oregon and Northwestern. Northwestern had a good season. Oregon has not played up to snuff this year. Carolina gets it done this week. Buckeyes are in the Final Four.
And I'm piggybacking on that. I also agree. I think the Buckeyes find a way, by the gracious of God Almighty, they get into the Final Four. And if they do, look out, because they are definitely on the upswing, and I don't think any SEC team wants to play them right now. So I'm gonna drink the Colin Cowherd Kool-Aid and hope my Buckeyes get in. I really hope so. But that's my bold prediction. I hope they get in. But thank you, everyone, for listening to our show. That's episode 11. It was a great show. Thank you to everyone who asked questions, sent in questions. You guys are awesome. Make sure you guys check out our new segment that we're doing. It's Confessions of an Ohio Sports Fan. It's super awesome. We want to hear your story. What does your team mean to you? Tell us any story you have. Is there a special memory you have? Write us an essay. Send it to us. We'll post it on our site. We really want to hear from our fans. We love you guys. So check that out, Confessions of an Ohio Sports Fan. You can read up about it on our Facebook page. Go to our Facebook page. Just search Ohio Sports Radio and like us on there. We posted about it on there. Follow us on Twitter at Ohio Sports Radio. You can send us emails, ohiosportsradio@gmail.com. Check out our website. We're updating it daily, ohsportsradio.com. We appreciate everyone. You guys are great. Our fans, we couldn't do this without you guys and your support. You guys are the best. Chris, Ian, you guys have anything else to add?
10-2, baby. Let's do it. That's all I got.
Ian?
We're going to try and get one of the Ryan brothers on our show next week.
Rob's not doing anything, so I think we could probably get Rob in. I will reach out. I will post an email, a snapshot of me reaching out to Rob Ryan to see if I can get him on our show. And I will absolutely bash Rob Ryan if he gets on here. So our ratings will go up, baby. Yeah. So thank you to everyone again. Follow us on Twitter at Ohio Sports Radio. Like our Facebook page, Ohio Sports Radio. Check out Confessions of an Ohio Sports Fan. We want to hear from you, the fans. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for check out our YouTube page. We're posting all this on YouTube, and thank you for everyone who watches our videos and likes all of our stuff and reads our stuff. We love it. Check out our website, ohsportsradio.com. You guys are the best. We appreciate it. Until next week. And Ian, who day, Ian? Who day?
We bark together.
Yay.
Thank you, guys. See you guys next week.